Well, the only newly minted grade one on the 2-day stakes extravaganza at Belmont Park is Friday's New York, which will go as race number 10 at 5:50 Eastern time. Nick Tammaro here to cover the New York, joined by Darin Zoccali. Darin, you ready to rock and roll for this big couple of days of racing?
I definitely am. It's one of my favorite weekends of the year, each and every year. I have a couple of strong opinions that hopefully connect and build my bankroll throughout the week that can lead me up to a big Saturday. I know Chad Brown is ready to rock and roll because I get excited when I've got an 8 claimer, and I can only imagine what it's like to have 4 in a grade 1.
I guess you have to budget your time very carefully to saddle 4 horses.
Yeah.
It can't be that easy. So I'm guessing he's going to have to work a little bit of overtime in the paddock for this New York. Let's get right into it. It is a 7-horse field, and 4 of them are trained by Chad Brown. But let's start with your pick, who is actually not one of the Chad Brown trainees, and I am talking about number 7, Family Way.
Yeah, Family Way, I think, has a bit of a pace advantage against several of these. I know that one of the Chads, Virginia Joy's, got a little bit of foot to her, but I mean, let's face it, over in the Sheepshead Bay, that race was over a bog. She inherited an easy lead against a field of 4, and I'm not necessarily sure that she's that quick out of the gate. I think that Family Way, if Tyler Gaffleone gets aggressive here, she can probably make her way to the front and control things. And if she does do that, going the 1.25 mile distance, we've seen that many times in New York, Nick, where sometimes these horses get out to a lead. You put a quality animal out in front, they're allowed to just kind of lope along for a mile, and then it doesn't matter what's behind them because they just quicken up and they're hard to catch. So I'm kind of hoping for that kind of a trip. I think the price is definitely going to be solid enough. I think 8-1 is fair value. Does she need to improve a bit? Absolutely, but I think she's in the best form of her career, and I'm basically just looking for Tyler Gaffleone to grab this race by the reins and hopefully send her to the front and say, catch me if you can.
Brendan Walsh, of course, scored with the horse at Belmont on Sunday, and one of the best trainers around currently, in my opinion. I thought that there was at least a decent chance that Chad and Peter Brent were going to use Flighty Lady as a rabbit, which I actually don't think hurts Family Way at all. And I think it actually would give her a pretty decent target. The other advantage that she has, in my opinion, is that she's shortening up to the 1.25 miles, which a lot of times in a kind of a stamina interested race, it's a positive. The favorite is going to be number 2, Rougier, who was installed as a pretty heavy morning line pick. She comes in off a win in the Beaugay. We became acquainted with her when she tried the Filly and Mare Turf last year. She had a pretty tough trip that afternoon, came back and dismissed of her rivals in the Beaugay very easily. Is it this just a matter of not wanting to take a particularly short price?
Yeah, I recognize that she seems to be the most talented filly. I mean, obviously, she's not just a Group 1 winner, but she's a Group 1 winner at 1.25 miles in the Prix d'Opera at Longchamp. That speaks volumes for what she's facing against here. Her effort in the Bouguet was sensational. She has a wicked turn of foot. And I definitely think this could potentially be the next budding star for Chad Brown in terms of fillies on the turf. But again, I do think that she's going to need a lively pace situation. And like you talked about, with Family Way cutting back in distance, I just thought based on the price being somewhere around 6 times that of Rougier with maybe a bit of a pace advantage, she might be a slightly better play in this particular spot.
I thought that was fair as well. Let's talk about another Chad Brown entrant, and that is number 5, Bleecker Street, who brings in a perfect 6-for-6 record. One of the things that I've always admired about Chad and a lot of these guys with big stables is that they do a very good job assessing the talent of their horses when they begin their careers. This is not a horse that you would have thought Chad had grade 1 aspirations for when he began her career at Monmouth last year, and then still followed up with a one other than at the Meadowlands, ended up sending her to Tampa, where generally a lot of his, not necessarily B team horses, he's run a lot of good horses at Tampa, but he still ran her there in a 2 other than. I think she may have caught him a little bit by surprise.
I agree. In fact, Chad actually had a couple of horses with a similar pattern last year that he brought to the Meadowlands and then sold them at the Keeneland sale. So that was kind of a bit of an angle for Chad Brown and what he was doing with some of the horses that I guess he didn't think had this type of ability. I definitely think that this horse caught him by surprise because sent the horse to Tampa Bay, which is obviously not Chad Brown's number 1 spot for the wintertime. He would, if this horse was a grade 1 quality, or he thought that she obviously would have either been at Gulfstream or getting ready for a campaign like Howdy was this year and kind of away for the winter. But after the Hillsborough, she really just continued to show that she's got a nice turn of foot. She's got a lot of class to her. But even after the Hillsborough, did not move her up, ran her in the grade 3 Modesty again. So I guess at this point, when she's 6-for-6, Chad's probably throwing his shoulders up and saying, okay, time to see what you could do against the big girls. And I think that's what it is. And we're going to find out just how good she is for sure.
Yeah, I'm not altogether certain she isn't good enough to win this race. I think that it's kind of funny to me that she was not favored in the one other than at Meadowlands. She's going to be about the same price in this race. One other Chad Brown trainee that is, of course, worthy of conversation is the 3 Virginia Joy, who you mentioned a little earlier, won the Sheep's Head Bay by 14 and a quarter lengths. Obviously, if that happens, it is courtesy of something extreme. And in this case, it was the extreme turf condition, which was incredibly boggy. And that was a small field where she handled the turf. And I think it would suffice to say that none of her rivals did as well. That being said, this is a filly, or a mare, I should say, who was 6-1 in last year's New York, which was a 9-horse field headed by Mean Mary that included the Joseph O'Brien trainee Thundering Knights. Virginia Joy is a good horse. I just think she's a cut below her stablemates.
I tend to agree with you. I do respect her because she could seemingly run on just about any type of going, which is a real quality to have with a turf filly. You give her a firm course, she wins the grade 3 very one. You put her over an absolute bog and she handles that when nobody else does as well. So I do respect her ability. She was a nice horse overseas as well when she was racing in Germany. She's never really run a bad race in her entire career. It's just now moving up to grade 1 level. I do think a couple of these just have a little bit more talent than she does.
She may end up grabbing the baton from the potential pace setter Flighty Lady in the Chad Brown relay for Peter Brandt. I'm interested to see what 4 different color caps they use, hopefully for John and Brielle to keep track of these horses, which will be a task in and of itself. You and I have called races. That's not a lot of fun.
No, it's not fun when you have horses that share the same words in them, especially if they line up next to each other. When you have 3 or 4 of the same silks and you have to just identify them by a cap, especially at Belmont, where the backstretch might as well be in Mars. It is not a fun task at all.
That is a fact. Well, good luck to John and Brielle, and good luck to all of you playing this New York. Darin, thanks. We'll have to do this again soon.
I think we're going to, because we have quite a few races this weekend to talk about.
I think we will also. That is the New York, which will be at 5:50 Eastern on Friday afternoon. Make sure you're playing along at TwinSpires.com. Until next time, best of luck.